Right, welcome to another in our series of Unpacking Telematics. This is brought to you by Netstar, a subsidiary of the Alstom Group, in partnership with FleetWatch magazine. And my name is Patrick Leary, managing editor of FleetWatch. And today, in this episode, we're going to be talking about how telematics helps with route planning and monitoring delivery. Very important subject. What help can you get in this? And in the studio with me, I have Ralph Govender, who's Senior Manager, Sales and Business Development, who's been with Netstar for over 23 years and on all different arenas, and he's going to be leading us through this. Ralph, just to introduce it, I remember the old days, number of route planning software packages were launched, and they've sort of made their way out, and telematics has overtaken this. Can telematics do what those software systems do? Or did? Can it be a standalone to achieve ideal route planning? Lead us through a little bit about the route planning in telematics.
Patrick, thank you so much. Appreciate. So typically, telematics acts as quite a stable enabler to route planning and scheduling, right? So these days, a lot of software packages do offer standard or sort of basic route planning and optimization. It all depends on the complexity of the operation. So you can get route planning in most software platforms currently. However, for more complex operations, you will require a standalone software platform that can guide that entire process because it can get very complex.
Does your system integrate with those standalone software packages, or those outside Netstar standalone packages that your system integrates with, or have you developed standalone software packages?
So Netstar hasn't developed a standalone specifically in routing and scheduling. We partnered with one of the leaders in the market, and already there's integration done into all of Netstar's systems. So when we need this type of technology at a customer, we then take our partners along, and we can talk from a holistic Netstar point of view because all of that system's already integrated into Netstar.
Okay, so that makes sense. Partnering with the people, we all got different areas of expertise.
Correct.
Okay. Now, in the old days, the conscientious operators would actually drive a route before they sent out their drivers on that thing. Can you, for example, if I give you a route, can you simulate that route for me before we actually undertake a trip on that route?
Absolutely. All right. So telematic systems these days are very, very advanced. So Netstar in particular, our system produces very, very rich telemetry data. I mean, we've got hundreds of thousands of devices in the field already. So we're able to simulate just about any route, and we'll give you on that route gradients, traffic, speed alerts, etc. So we use a lot of Netstar's telemetry data to then simulate what happens on those routes without you having to drive that route at all.
Okay, so I've got a route planning schedule before I've even set a truck on, and I don't have to physically go drive that route with the driver.
Absolutely.
We can look at it on a software
We
program.
can look at it on a software basis.
And you give us every incident along, or every gradient, every robot, every bridge.
So we've got data on gradients, we've got data on the speed zones in those areas. We've even got data on the incidents in those areas. So we've taken it a little bit beyond where we can now give you some data on, let's just say, hijacking hotspots, etc., in a particular area, so you can decide if that is actually an optimal route for your truck, or your fleet to drive, depending on the type of loads you carry. So it's gone a little beyond.
Fantastic, Rob. And that is bringing in, once again, big data.
Yes.
Which is the new gold, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you are looking at that route, not only from my truck that may be driving it, let's say I have driven it, but you're getting all your clients, you get information from all the clients on trucks that are driving that route, and you're getting incidents such as hijacking and various others on that route, and you feed it back to me. So I'm getting all your big data experience and knowledge.
That's it, 100%. So, in terms of just what you mentioned now, hijackings, we can also give data on the types of loads that are perhaps hijacked in certain areas.
Oh, wow,
so when you're going to plan your trip as a customer, depending on what loads you're delivering, let's say it's FMCG stuff, there are certain areas where these loads are taken more frequently. You can perhaps plan an alternative route to reduce your chance of hijacking. So you're not found commonly in those areas where these types of loads are taken. So we've really taken it a little bit further just to help with some proactive measures before even scheduling.
Fantastic. But Now, if I see that route that you've given me is a pretty dangerous route, been a number of hijacks, there's even been crashes there, there's no matter what they are, I don't want to go that route.
Yeah.
Can I push a button and find an alternative route?
Absolutely.
Would you give me that facility on my computer? I can do that?
Absolutely. So
Really?
the system's designed to do dynamically rescheduling. So you can do a lot of dynamic reschedules, and that includes redirecting a driver from, let's say, a customer has an emergency pickup and he's already got his schedule for the day. It's pre-planned. He knows his ETAs. You can push in a dynamic reschedule that says, well, don't go to stop number 3, go to number 7 first, and then it will reroute you and reschedule all of your other stops based on that dynamic type of rescheduling. So absolutely you can reschedule a driver on an alternate route, or even to make a different stop, depending on the urgency with your customer.
Safe driving, I don't know, maybe some of the driver trainers will knock me on this, but I think they say you look 10 cars ahead.
Yeah.
You look in suburbs ahead.
Correct.
To give me the best route and the safest route for me to travel.
Absolutely. So Netstar pulls in its own traffic data based on devices within its own database. So we, like you mentioned earlier, have a massive big data a pool of data that we can use to then give you speed zones, limits, and things that where vehicles are driving, let's say, slower in a particular area or there's congestion, to dynamically reroute you before you even get there. So it's very much advanced type planning.
That was going to be one of my questions, or my next question is, we're talking about planning a route ahead of time. Now I'm on that route, and there's big drama ahead. We have a thing called ESCOM. And in that equation, let's call it, we have load shedding.
Yeah.
Now there is massive congestion all around the country because of load shedding.
Yes.
Can you, on the route, can you dynamically say, hey, Pat's truck is on that route, and it's there's congestion, he's going to take 3 hours to get to the thing if he goes that route because of the congestion due to load shedding, due to robots being out, etc. Can you redirect me?
Absolutely. Right, so that's the simple answer. Because telematics data provides information in real time, you always know where your vehicle is to the minute, right? And there are a number of items that can delay schedules, roadworks, an accident on a major route, just excessive traffic. Everybody decided to wake up and get on the road today. And of course, the famous one, ESCOM, where, with load shedding, really has a major effect with traffic lights being out. It literally can add minutes, if not hours, to your trip. So knowing that in advance and being able to find alternative roads is really key. And this is what the advanced routing and scheduling tools can do for you. It will really help you to sort of preempt that and then try and find alternate routes, because these days, let's face it, a lot of even the alternate routes are getting jammed because, well, everybody's trying to find one. Yeah. And so the system can give you the optimal route, let's put it that way, just to ensure that you try and at least keep within your schedules for the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, as you say, the ESCOM has brought you a new dynamic into route planning, because one of the biggest cost factors, operational cost factors, is fuel.
Yeah.
And you're sitting with your trucks idling, especially the FMCG and the smaller local distribution fleet, are sitting in trucks idling, wasting fuel.
Yeah.
And so that is impacting on your bottom line, whereas before ESCOM, we had electricity, that wasn't there. So that gives route planning now, but the live route planning. And now that is not doing planning, that's monitoring, isn't it?
Yeah.
The difference between planning and monitoring.
Yeah, correct. So, look, monitoring your fleet and knowing where it is at any point in time is exactly like you said. You just have a view of where your vehicles are. The efficiency is coming in being able to dynamically reroute them where there are congestion and obstructions and that type of thing, so that you can then, again, like you said, fuel, it's important to reduce that fuel cost. And how do you do it? By just improving the efficiencies in your fleet, and then improving your productivity, because drivers as well, they're measured on their productivity, and sitting in traffic for hours idling, doing nothing, it's not very productive. So if you can reroute them, you improve your productivity, and in doing so, your fuel usage does come down. If that's monitored properly, though, and these systems have the ability to take some of the manual work out from that.
It seems to me what you're saying, like, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. It's all about transport efficiency today, and taking the correct route that gets you there in the fastest time, safely, is about transport efficiency,
Yeah.
or part of it, and that's route planning. Have you noticed that the outside influences, such as a road filled with potholes, so we know there's many of them, the congestion, the outages, the robots, have you noticed an increase in customers saying, help me with my route planning?
Yes, definitely. Customers have caught on to the fact that technology can help them optimize these efficiencies. Asset utilization has become a massive thing where customers may have huge fleets, but don't necessarily know, do I have, let's say, 100 vehicles? Does that optimally service my customers and the loads that I need to deliver? So what route planning can do is give you the maximum amount of load with the fewest amount of vehicles in the shortest amount of distance. And that's really all about massive optimization. If you can do that right, you might realize you have 5 extra trucks that are sitting around doing nothing. And that's where now all of these cost impacts start coming in. So yes, it's vital. It's absolutely key.
So there's a massive increase in demand for route planning
Yes.
and monitoring.
And we're finding even with a lot of SMBs that are asking for this now, with smaller businesses, 5 and 10 vehicles, etc., are looking for the same efficiencies that a massive 500 or 1,000 fleet have been using for a while. They're all caught on to the fact that, look, we can also benefit from these efficiencies. And it's not limited. You don't have to get the full, all of these routing systems are very modular. So you can use what part of the system you want. You don't need to take the full Monty. So it is very configurable, and that helps and makes it easier to make a decision on it. Yeah.
Once again, Ralph, I have to ask the question that, in all those, like you'd buy a package off a shelf.
Yeah.
But now and this is what this is about, unpacking telematics. There are so many different components to telematics systems that have various benefits to different people. But what seems to be is that there's a new era of closer relationships with clients to meet their needs.
Yes.
Closer liaison with them.
Yeah.
Forming a partnership with your clients.
Yeah.
Is that possible? Is that sustainable? You need a lot of staff to do that. You need a lot of people to do that.
Yeah.
As opposed to buying the package on the shelf. How are you managing that?
Yeah, look, buying a package on the shelf in itself will still require some type of needs analysis with the client, because a lot of these packages can get very complex, and each business has very different needs. So you still need to have that engagement. You still need to do a very thorough needs analysis, because you don't want to sell a package for the sake of selling a package. You're ultimately trying to impact the customer, and you're trying to improve their efficiencies. And if you're doing it genuinely to do that, then the discussions would happen across the table. There's a lot of digital forums that are used now, so you don't necessarily have to be in front of a client every day. A lot of people are using remote communication, Teams, WhatsApp groups, etc., to improve efficiency of communication. So all of these digitized tools help with maintaining really a high level of communication with your client, so that you don't lose sight of what the end goal is. You're not just having one meeting every month and in there you need to unpack a host of things. Ongoing communication, because there's different platforms available now, it's just made it a lot easier, to engage with clients on an ongoing basis, because businesses are dynamic. The needs change, their contracts change. You may suddenly want to deliver a very high value package, and that requires a whole different set of rules. So having that engagement and that open platform, enables then to produce these efficiencies going forward.
And that's from a small company right to the major companies.
Absolutely. So
because the small companies were sort of excluded. I'm not saying that came from Netstar, but their own. They didn't see roles for telematics, but now they are looking at that. Yeah. And so it's across the board of transport. Yeah. We're looking at the potential for greater efficiencies, better fuel savings, just from route planning and monitoring. Never mind all the other benefits of telematics.
Correct. Absolutely. So, telematics gives you a set of benefits, and it's really what you do with the data, because telematics can provide you with a host of data. Yeah. But when you can glean some insights from that and then apply those learnings to your business, that's actually when you start seeing the benefits of telematics. If you can then start bringing these efficiencies out in your business, that's really when you will see it in your bottom line. And this telematics ends up just paying for itself, because it's not a grudge purchase anymore. It's a must in my business. Yeah.
Fantastic, Ralph. On the last question, I'm a small transport operator, SMME, got a couple of trucks. I haven't got time to do all this. Can you let me use your bureau?
Absolutely. And we've created a very specialized bureau at Netstar. So we understand that a lot of companies these days don't have the time to actually manage the telematics systems. You know, you want telematics in your business, but that in itself brings some challenges, because managing telematics and then making use of the insights from telematics needs intervention. It might need an extra staff member on your side. So for a fraction of the cost of hiring somebody, we have an entire dedicated contact center that will do that on your behalf, and we'll do it 24/7.
That's an extension of my company.
It's an extension of your company, either sitting remotely at Netstar or even at your premises, depending on the size of your business and what you need. We will tailor it to suit those needs. But 100% we fill that gap, and we have all of the resources that will do it on your behalf. And we'll just provide you with the insights from it, so you can make actionable decisions based on what we're telling you that's happening in your fleet, as opposed to going to evaluate the data on yourself and then figuring out what the requirement is.
Well, there you have it. So many benefits just from one feature of a telematics system fitted into your fleet. And that is route planning and monitoring. Designed to improve your efficiencies, to improve your bottom line, and make your customers happy through timeous, on-time, safe deliveries of product. Rav, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.